Yeah, I don't know why the countdown started again, but what's going on, everybody? So it's the same show you're used to, just not called the Big Three anymore. We're now on the Ball podcast. I got Jake here with me. Hopefully we'll get Dylan in here a little bit later, but if not, we'll run it for the night. But obviously, appreciate everybody who will tune in. Like I said, it's new network and everything. It's now Integrity Sports Network. So we know it's going to be probably a little slow in the beginning, but I'm sure the usuals will trickle in kind of shortly. But Jake, before we get started with everything, how you doing?
Man, I'm doing great. I'm really excited for the be part of the Integrity Sports, network. Really excited for the rebrand. Excited for the On the Ball podcast rebrand. I think it's going to do a lot of good for us. And excited to talk basketball. Like I've been getting more into college basketball this past weekend with the tournaments, and I feel like my
Mhm.
bracket's kind of ready to go. So I'm really excited for the show. How are you doing?
I'm good. I mean, there's probably few things better than right there where March Madness is about to start because I mean it's kind of a topic we'll get into a little bit later, but the first like couple of weeks of March Madness where there's like plenty of games on every day. There's nothing better for a sports fan. And now you throw in like the women's one, where I feel like more people will be watching that one as well. I mean, there's just too much going on. So yeah,
Yeah.
as a sports fan, I'm loving it right now.
Yep, my Friday, Saturday, Sunday, I have nothing scheduled, no appointments. Uh, I'm doing nothing but sitting on my butt on the couch watching basketball, and I'm super excited for it.
I mean, that's what sports were created for.
Exactly.
But like I said, new network, new new name to the show, but you get the same content, the same quality you've gotten used to. But I guess we can go ahead get started with our first topic here. And hold on, just waiting for it to pull up. Come on, there we go. So we are going to start with the NBA. I know it's not probably in the front of everybody's mind right now with, like we said, the tournament coming up, free agency, which we'll talk about a little bit here as well. But I want to look at some teams in the NBA who are jockeying for position as we're about 12 games away from the playoffs starting. So with this, it's very simple. I'll pull up two, three teams, and it'll kind of go with who we're buying going forward as like a legit threat once the playoffs get here or whatever. And then obviously the ones we leave off are the teams we're going to sell. So the first one, I feel like these two are forever linked. So we'll just start off with the Warriors or the Lakers. Who are you buying going forward?
Man. So I'll say this: if this was like you have to buy or sell stocks, like I just would stay away from. Um, I, it's really hard for me to say sell on the Warriors because of Steph Curry and how great he can be and how great he can just kind of take over a game. But my big concern with Golden State is, and it's been that way this whole season, has been their size. They really don't have a whole lot of rebounding. Their offense isn't quite what it used to be. They're aging, and that second crop of stars just hasn't quite turned the corner yet. I'm gonna buy the Lakers on this simply for the fact that when they're hot, when they're playing at their peak, I feel like they do present a lot of really good matchups for a lot of potential other teams. We know LeBron can have his moments. He's having a great season. Anthony Davis is having a really good year. I trust them because of their size and their defense, and maybe they get hot shooting the three. We saw it with Miami last year. They were a terrible 3-point shooting team in the regular season, and it carried them all the way to the NBA Finals. Uh, don't like either of these teams. They've both been pretty disappointing as far as their performance goes, but I'm going to buy the Lakers and sell on the Warriors. And it feels dirty saying that about Steph Curry, but this team they just don't have it this year. It's just not meant to be.
I mean, this one is a little tough because I will say when it comes to the Lakers, I know LeBron has gotten all the credit and the attention, but if you watch them play, their most important player is Anthony Davis.
Absolutely.
So they will go as far as Anthony Davis can kind of take them, whether that's his effectiveness against certain players, because we've seen him struggle against Sabonis. He seems to get up for games against Jokic, but Jokic is just tough. Or, I mean, not or, but also health, of course. He's been out for a couple of games now with a little injury, but for the most part, he's been pretty healthy. So if he's going to be there come playoff time, they'll be fine. For Golden State, they've had their struggles with kind of chemistry because they're trying to toe that line between the old guard in Curry, Thompson, and Draymond, while trying to figure out where the young blood's going to come from to help these older guys push through the long grind of a season. It seems like they've kind of settled in on, Pods and Gary Payton second, Moody, Kaminga, those guys. So they're both teams that have their glaring flaws, but I mean, I guess I'd probably have to agree with you that it is probably the Lakers. I'm not gonna sleep on the Warriors though, but I just think AD's affecting that team. Plus, with some of the uncertainty at the top of the West, they might be more equipped to, knock off a couple of the big boys up top and get at least to the second round. Golden State, look, it's gonna have to be matchup specific for them because their lack of size will kill them against certain teams. But the experience, I don't know. But yeah, I agree with you. I'll go with the Lakers on this one.
Yeah. The best question to do when comparing these two teams, I just had this thought because we didn't discuss. I didn't see these teams beforehand. Is outside of Steph Curry, when you're looking at the Lakers and the Warriors, like what Warrior like it scares you on what player on that team is like, oh man, I'm not worried about Clay anymore, and that hurts my heart
Mhm.
to say. I'm not terribly worried about Draymond. Like Kaminga is hit and go, Wiggins is MIA. Like what player on the Warriors is really scary? Where the Lakers have guys that aren't as scary as these other real contenders in the West, but at least they have guys out there that can show. Austin Reeves can show up. Rui could have a good game. D'Lo might show up. We just don't know what's going to happen. The Warriors, it's like the Steph Curry show, and they're as far as Steph's going to take them and Steph Curry alone. And so for that, that's why I picked the Lakers.
I mean, yeah, because I do agree with you. Like Steph Curry is one of my favorite players to watch, so it's always difficult to go against him. But yeah, it just seems like the Laker roster is probably more balanced out than Golden State is right now. But once again, we could be dead wrong. And, Golden State gets into the playoffs. The younger, inexperienced teams at the top of the West really struggle against Golden State. They feel like the pressure's on them, and maybe Golden State pushes through. But we're both gonna go Lakers on this one.
Let's be
You're
real. Like
tuning
the
in.
ceiling for most of these teams is like a competitive first round. I'd be shocked
Mhm.
if either of these teams made the second round of the playoffs.
Yeah, I can see that. All right, next up. So for this one, you can only buy one team. We got the Phoenix Suns, LA Clippers, and the Dallas Mavericks. Who are you buying?
Man. Okay. So, all right. So let me go through each team here. The Suns on paper should be terrifying because Kevin Durant's been on fire lately. Like he's just it continues to amaze me how efficient he is scoring. Devin Booker is great, but they haven't played a whole lot of games together. Like it feels like it's still kind of a Nets thing when the KD Nets where they just didn't play a whole lot of games together. I don't really feel
Mhm.
great about that. I also don't trust their defense. Dallas is again, their defense is just non-existent. Their whole ideology is just to score more than the other, and I get that's how you win games, but they're not focused on defense. They're just focused on scoring a ton of points. And then the Clippers, should be a team that like would scare some people because they
Mhm.
have some good veterans. They're built for this, but it's the Clippers franchise, and then it's James Harden, and that James Harden's going to have at least in a 7-game series, he's going to have at least 2 games where he's complete. He's garbage. I'm taking the Clippers as my buy here, though. I don't trust the Phoenix Suns. I don't feel like it's just in the cards. They haven't had enough time to play together. They don't play defense. And as much as I like Luca, I just feel that their strategy just to score a bunch of points is going to be really difficult to win a 7-game series. They're going to make it. The Mavericks are going to be a tough team to be out, but it's just there comes a point where threes just don't go in, where your basket just doesn't drop, and you have to go play defense. You have to match up, game after game, possession after possession. And I just don't think the Mavericks are built that way. I'm taking the Clippers because they should be good, but I think they're probably going to be a second round team and then have their typical James Harden, LA Clippers fall off in the second round of whoever they end up playing. But they're going to get there, and I don't think the Suns or Mavericks are getting out of the first round this year.
Okay. So I see we have a few people in here. What's going on? Flood the chat. We love hearing from you. We're doing buy or sell here. So between the Suns, Clippers, and Mavericks, you have to buy one team for the rest of the year. Jake's gone with the Clippers. Now, before I give mine, I do have to say, in terms of the Mavericks, that game winner from Kyrie Irving. Look, I know
That was
Kyrie Irving
amazing.
isn't the most likable guy in the league. I get that. I'm kind of there with you, but that was the craziest game winner I've seen. Him going to his left, the like half hook runner, whatever that shot was, making that was the craziest thing. I just want to say that. So in terms of these three, I feel like it's probably between the Clippers and the Suns. And that's no disrespect to the Mavericks because with Luca, you got Kyrie. I like that they got Gafford and guys like that, but I'm gonna kind of put them out on that one. It's going on, Anthony. I mean, Anthony raises a good point that the Suns don't really play defense. I saw them when the Celtics played them, and yeah, it was a struggle. The Celtics basically targeted Bradley Beal and kind of Booker most of the night. And for KD, he's 35, 36 years old. You're just not going to ask him to play, lockdown defense night in and night out. So that is definitely going to be a problem. And Nurkic being their like one true kind of rim protection can be an issue. So I think once again, I'm probably going to have to agree with you here and probably buy the Clippers. And that's kind of
Feels dirty.
shaky because it's like Kawhi. I feel like I know I'm getting what I'm getting from Kawhi. Although this year he's been playing in a lot more games, we'll have to see what that effect is like come the playoffs. But Paul George, I feel like I know what I'll get from him. James Harden is the big question mark. We have seen him fade in playoff series, and this Clippers team just cannot afford that with him. He has to be on point each and every game for this team to do well because he's their point guard. He's going to have to make sure Kawhi and Paul George, are eating on the offensive end. And defensively, I feel like with the Clippers, with Paul George and Kawhi, they can hide Harden's, deficiencies defensively, but I don't even think that's really that big of an issue with them. For them, it's going to be are those three guys healthy and playing well at the same time. If they're able to do that, then I think the Clippers are the easy choice here. And
Yep.
Key also agrees.
Agree.
Have to go with the Clippers.
Yep. Other thing too here, with looking at these three teams, which head coach do you trust the most of these three teams? And for me, it's Ty Lue.
Oh yeah,
Like of the three
absolutely.
guys. And so I think that also plays a factor that Ty Lue's the coach of these three guys that I definitely would trust the most in the playoffs. So that makes you feel a little bit better about the Clippers. Not great, but definitely make me
Mm-hmm.
feel a little bit better.
Yeah, that's a great point. Yeah, if it came down to Ty Lue, Vogel, or Kid, yeah, Ty
It's
Lue.
Ty Lue,
Ty
hands down,
Lue's
easy.
Ty Lue's definitely the safer bet. Yeah. Yeah, no, that probably would be a big, an even bigger shift towards the Clippers. Their coaching is just better.
Yep.
Okay, so we've agreed on the first two. Let's see what happens with this one.
Oh
Now switching to the East.
man.
Hey, look, I was not going to make this easy. So we've
Oh
got the
man.
Heat, the Pacers, and the 76ers. You can only buy one. Who are you buying?
Have we heard anything about Embiid's return and his health? Like,
I think Embiid basically expect him early April.
okay, so it's still a little bit out.
Yeah.
Oh, see, the thing is, if we're talking playoff time and Embiid is healthy, Philadelphia is the right answer because when he was playing like he was the MVP before he got hurt. They had a, I think they were a
Hmm.
top 3 seed in the East. He was averaging like 35 points a game or something stupid like that. But we don't know if he's actually coming back, and we don't know what version we're getting. Is he going to rush back? Because we know he takes a lot of pride in his game. Is he going to come back at 75%? Is he going to come back at 100%? We just don't know. And so for me, I can't buy in on Philadelphia and Miami. Like, look, I get that they do this year after year, and they're like the zombie heat. But can they just like not? Can they just show up once in the regular season? I'm going to take the Pacers. I don't feel great about it, and this more has to do with the fact that I'm just a huge Tyrese Halliburton fan, and I like their
Hmm.
coaching and a lot of the guys that they have. But I'm going to take Indiana. I feel like offense is going to go a little better. They don't play any defense, but I trust a team that can at least score the basket as opposed to Miami, where sometimes you just wonder where they're getting their baskets from. I feel like Bam Adebayo hasn't had quite as good of a year as we normally would expect, and I just can't trust Embiid's health until I need to see it. I need to see it before I can put any faith into Philadelphia. Because if he comes back at 100%, then Philly's the easy answer. But with that huge variable, it just doesn't feel safe. So I'll buy on Indiana here.
Okay. I mean, look, all three of these teams, they have storylines that will be interesting to watch as they go forward. For Miami, like you said, this is supposedly the time when they kind of turn it on and get into playoff mode. Butler's hurt right now, or he's been out. So we have to see what Miami's able to do until he comes back. The Pacers were the it team early on, faded, and now there's some like worries about Halliburton maybe running down because I know last night he went like 4 for 14 from the field. So there's some worries there with him. The Sixers, we knew what they were when Embiid was playing. And Key did put first week of April. I know I heard first week of April, maybe second week, so it's supposed to be early April. We just have to see what he looks like. How does he trust the knee? Does it hinder him in any way? So these are three teams that had a lot of expectations this year. I mean, this is gonna be tough for me to say.
You're not going to
I
pick.
think I think I gotta go Sixers on this one.
Oh, I thought you were going to pick Miami. I was going to be
Oh
shocked if
no,
you're going to pick
I
Miami.
have been out. I've been out on Miami all season. I'm not buying into the Heat culture stuff this year. I just think Miami lost too much from last year for me to take them seriously. And another thing on the Heat, I don't know why the Heat get away with this. Like the analysts don't really call them out for them basically sleepwalking through 85% of the regular season.
Yep.
If some other teams were trying to do what Miami were doing, they'd kill them. But Miami, they don't. But that's neither here nor there. So I'm only going to go with the Sixers because I love Tyrese Maxey. Love his game. The Buddy Hield edition, I was kind of so on. But if Embiid is coming back, I think Hield makes more sense, and Embiid is coming back. I feel like even if Embiid is like 75, 80%, depending on matchups, of course, that's going to be good enough for Philly. Now, Philly's going to have to kind of get past the mental block of the Celtics, who seemingly have their number in the playoffs every year.
You just had
But
to throw that in there.
Oh, absolutely. Because if some of my Celtics people were tuning in, I don't want them to think that I'm turning into some Sixers guy. No, but yeah, out of these three, I think I would trust the Sixers more. The Pacers, I still think the Pacers are kind of ahead of schedule a little bit. I
Sure.
think they're a team to watch maybe next year, the year after, as they're still like accumulating talent. Halliburton's becoming, a bigger and better player. So I don't know if I really would expect a lot from the Pacers this year. Next year and the year after, look out. I've already said about Miami, I didn't buy into them at all this year, and that's not going to change now. So yeah, I'm definitely going to have to go with the Sixers.
All right.
So we did disagree on this one.
There we
I
go.
thought we would. All right, let's hit up the next one. Well, this is another tough one. So now we're kind of dealing with three teams, kind of inexperienced, not really sure what you might get from them come the playoffs, but we have the Cavs, the Magic, and the Knicks. Can only buy one once again. Who are you buying, Jake?
All right. So first off, I just want to congratulate the Orlando Magic for currently being the fifth seed in the Eastern
Mm-hmm.
Conference playoffs. Like, I didn't see that coming. I thought they'd be better, but I didn't see that coming. I'm going to buy the Knicks here. Part of me wants to buy the Cleveland Cavaliers because there's some guys I like. I'm still a huge Donovan Mitchell fan, even though he left the Utah Jazz. Uh, there's just I like Mobley a lot. There's a lot of players that I like. Jared Allen. But I just feel like the Knicks, they've been playing a lot better. Jalen Brunson, I think he should be back in playing time for the playoffs to get healthy. I'm taking the Knicks. They were playing really hot. They had a great January, a great February. They made some good moves in middle of the season, and I just feel like they play with a lot of intensity. They play really aggressive. They're used to playing heavy minutes, which could bite them in the butt, but it could also affect them pretty well, where they're seasoned and they're ready to go for a full 7 game series. I think Orlando is very similar to Indiana. They're a year ahead. Like, I didn't expect them to be this good. And I think they're going to have a steep learning curve, much like we saw Cleveland last year. So I'm
Mm-hmm.
taking the Knicks. I want to see the Knicks do good. I think NBA would just be a lot better of a sport if the Knicks were just good. If they made the second round or conference finals on a consistent basis. So part of it might be a little biased that I want to see the Knicks do well, but I'm going to take New York here.
I mean, that's not a terrible choice. Because once again, as a Celtics fan, I'm not supposed to throw praise on the Knicks. What I will give them is the playoffs usually becomes more of a physical game, and the Knicks, that's what they need. They
Yep.
want the game to get real ugly, kind of sloppy, because that just fits the makeup of their team. And Thibodeau as a coach, sign him up for that. Cleveland, I mean, last season Cleveland really got into trouble late in games when their offense kind of bogged down to watch Donovan Mitchell try to bail us out. And for me, until they kind of get away from that, I don't know if I could buy into them. I might sound crazy. I'm kind of feeling the Magic with this one
Okay. All right.
because I think the Magic are kind of built like the Knicks, where they like to play physical defense as well, which, like I said, the playoffs will fit them perfectly. The only thing I worry about in terms of Orlando is the inexperience, of course, because not a lot of their players have been there at all. And sometimes Bankero gets caught in like hero ball and his shot selection can be a little iffy. But I do think if they were able to fix that, I could see the Magic probably making it the furthest out of the three of them. Technically, we might get Magic Knicks in the first round, which, to
Yep.
be honest with you,
Oh,
I
that'd be
would love to
awesome.
see.
That'd be awesome.
Yeah, I would
That
absolutely
that
love to see
feels
that.
like 1994 NBA playoffs is what that feels like
Yeah,
mid-90s, ugly, and I would love to see it.
yeah. So who knows? Two of these teams might just battle it out, and one gets eliminated. And for Cleveland, I mean, I know
Prove it.
like some people are
Prove it.
trying to pick Cleveland. Yeah, that's what it is. Like they have to prove it. I know some people are trying to say they could be the second best team in the East, and I feel like looking at them on paper, the collection that they have, they probably should be, but they just have to prove it now. So I'm gonna go with the Magic on this one. So this is another one that we disagreed on.
Yep.
Okay, definitely like that. I believe I have one more. No, I do not. Okay.
Okay.
Um, so transition to the NIT. So those of you tuning in, appreciate it. Run up the likes, subscribe over on YouTube. We don't have a Facebook going yet because Facebook and their crazy rules. It should be coming shortly, hopefully. But definitely appreciate the love from you all on YouTube, and I think we have some viewers on X. Feel free to jump in the chat on X. We definitely love to hear from you. But yeah, so let's go ahead and get into the NIT because the NIT is like the forgotten tournament with all the attention on the NCAA tournament. Now we had some, situations where 7 teams were given an invitation to the tournament and they backed out. They declined it. And these are the 7 teams I put on here. It's Pitt, St. John's, Memphis, Indiana, Ole Miss, Oklahoma, and Syracuse. And looking at those 7 teams, there's some like high profile coaches. Memphis has Penny Hardaway, St. John's has Rick Pitino, uh, Indiana has Mike Woodson. The championship game, I believe, is in Indiana. And Ole Miss was in this. It was in the SEC. Had a really good season. I mean, all these teams had good seasons, but I think the question is like, should we be okay with teams declining invitations because I guess their feelings are hurt from not being in the NCAA?
I'm not cool with it. And granted, in full transparency, I'm not going to watch the NIT. Like, I'm going to have enough college basketball to watch with the NCAA tournament. When you're an adult and you have a million other responsibilities, it's hard to watch 2 different tournaments with, you know, hundreds of teams. But I still
Mm-hmm.
want to see these teams show that they want to compete, show that they have some fight, have some spirit in them. I don't want to have these teams, especially high profile, whether it's a high profile coach or just a high profile program. I mean, you got Pitt, say like all of these programs have like pedigree to them. And
Mm-hmm.
just because your feelings got hurt because you weren't good enough, well, like Anthony said, you should have won. You should have played better. I don't want to hear, you hear about this for every playoff seeding for college basketball and college football. For, the first team that's out, there's always going to be some sort of travesty, whether it's real or not. And no matter how
Mm-hmm.
big you make the field, some team's going to be left out and they're going to be upset and they're going to want to make it about them. Look, just play better. And if you really felt you got robbed, show them. Show the committee in the NIT by winning the whole tournament. Like go out there, ball out. I feel like it makes you look kind of like a loser, like
Mm-hmm.
you're throwing a pity party. And you're just like, oh, we didn't get to the real tournament. They feel it's like the real tournament, so I'm just gonna no. Like if I was a lot of these kids or these students would kill to play in any sort of tournament to play more basketball. So I don't like it. Um, I don't watch the NIT, but I don't like teams just passing out, or passing on postseason games, whether it's a bowl game for college football or the NIT here. It sets a bad precedent. It makes them look weak. It makes a program look weak. Like
Mm-hmm.
no one's going to care. Like let's say like St. John's was in the NIT and they lost in the first round. Like no one's really going to notice or care. It's not going to affect their recruiting too much. But because they chose to set out, like other teams, other programs can use that against St. John's. Whereas if they played in the tournament and lost, not going to be a big deal. So I don't like it. And I think they should play. They're here to play and go out there and ball out. Prove the committee wrong. Prove them why you should have belonged and win the tournament.
I agree with you as well. Like, look, St. John's. We knew this was coming. Like Rick Pitino had been he's been on one this whole season, and the fact that they weren't going to be in the NCAA, I knew he was not going to accept the invitation. I feel like it's kind of twofold here. Like if this was a decision from the coaches and not discussing it with their players, I'd have an issue. If this was player initiated, I kind of still have an issue, but at least that way I could say, well, if the players weren't going to be into it, why waste people's time, to fake play in a tournament they don't want to be in. So I can see both sides of it. I do agree. I don't like it because even if you are, hurt by not being in the NCAA tournament, you're going to have kids on the team who will either graduate or going to declare early for the draft. Why not give them a chance to kind of, go out one last, whatever, hurrah in a tournament? And I get it. The NIT is a probably big step below the NCAA. I watch a little bit of it. The fact that BC is in the NIT will probably make me watch it, especially them playing Providence in the first round. So that's two like Northeast schools going at it. Hey, what's going on, Daniel and Jory? And I think I said what's up to Anthony, but what's up to everybody that's in here. So I definitely hate it, and especially with the championship game being like in Indiana, and the fact that Indiana is not in the tournament. I mean, that's kind of messed up. But like I said, I can understand it, the hurt feelings and everything, but I feel like you should be able to look past that and just go out and play. And look, if you win the NIT tournament, at least you could say you won something.
Yeah. No,
I
absolutely.
mean, the school would hang a banner for winning the NIT, so it means something.
Yeah. And you make a really good point about, this is going to be a lot of these players their last game, last season, whether they graduate or declare early for the draft. For a lot of guys that are graduating, like it's their last basketball game in any sort of organized professional way, because there's always pickup games, but those are always different. And for them, it would, it would just, if I was on the team, I'd feel kind of robbed of a chance to have real last chance to play basketball. Like all of a sudden, my basketball career is over. Like that would hurt. That would suck. I would want to be in these games to at least have one more game to play. Chase kind of just delaying the inevitable of when that last game
Mhm.
is going to be. So I want to see these players try hard. I want to see them care about it. And again, you make a big point. Indiana really missed a chance because if they're in the championship game and it's in on their campus, that's going to be a huge opportunity for the community and for the school. Maybe they chose to sit out because they don't think they can get there and they don't want to disappoint the fans. I don't know, but it's disappointing, and I'll just leave it at that. It's disappointing.
Yeah. So I'll just say once again, because like I said, Daniel, Jory, Anthony, who just came in, it's no longer the big three. It's now on the ball, but you guys already know what we do when we come on here, so nothing's going to change in that way. And the new network is Integrity Sports Network, so make sure you go ahead and subscribe because tonight we are on YouTube and X right now. Facebook is on the way, so once that's up and running, you can definitely. Well, I mean, the page is there, so you can go over there and follow that as well. So then, once we get it all set up, you'll be ready to go. But yeah, so we definitely see eye to eye on this one. We hate it. We understand it because they're missing out on the big tournament, but kind of sends a bad message. I mean, I got on LSU back with Ben Simmons when they didn't go to the NIT, and that one was because like Ben Simmons didn't want to go, and he was kind of a big voice on that team. Fast forward,
Look what
Ben
happened.
Simmons doesn't really play, doesn't have that competitive, instinct or
What a
competitive edge in,
shocker.
in him.
Yep.
Just saying. He kind of let you know back in college what to expect in the NBA. But all right, let's keep it going. All right, so now what's going on, Michael? Appreciate you tuning in. Hopefully, you're having a great evening as well. So now looking at the main tournament, the reason why we have March Madness, the 68 teams, we have the first four like underway tonight. I know a lot of people probably don't pay attention to the first four, but that just means we're a couple of days away from the was it Thursday madness where it's game after game after game, then Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. So, first question: is March Madness the best postseason in sports?
Yes, it's the most entertaining. It's the most widely accepted. Like people that don't follow sports have at least some small interest in March Madness, and that's something you can't say for NFL, for NBA, baseball, whatever it is. Every office, every company is going to have some sort of March Madness bracket challenge pool where they all get in, fill in the brackets, and people that don't even watch, they're just like, oh. I went to this school, or I had an ex that went here. They're going to lose in the first round. Like they all get into it a little bit. Filling out a bracket is fun, so the general, watching population is going to be the highest. And then, like you mentioned, that first 4 days, you wake up from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, it's just game after game after game, overlapping one another. I mean, you can just sit on the couch and just
Mhm.
click between. Like, there's not enough hours in the day to watch all of the basketball games. That's how. That's the madness that goes in that first weekend, and there's nothing like it. On top of the upsets, you get to learn about all these different schools, these different players that are really trying to make a good run for it. So for me, it's the most entertaining. Um, it's the one that, again, everybody gets into it, everybody watches it, everyone fills out a bracket. And you can't say that for the NFL, you can't say that for the NBA. Like there's some people that don't like that sport, but they'll watch this and get into it.
Yeah, I mean, I agree. Once again, it's just the intrigue of it because you'll watch a game and be like, well, obviously the top seed should win here, and then you get into halftime, it's kind of a close game, and you're like, oh, they'll figure out in the second half. They're just playing around with them. Then you're getting down to like 2 minutes left in the game, and that small school, whatever, is hanging in. You see the building completely turn and start rooting for that small team to beat the blue blood, as they call them. And it's like that coming through the TV screen is just what makes the tournament what it is. It's one of the big reasons why I feel like, college football should have kind of tried to capture some of this on their end, which they've actually are going to slowly get there starting next season with their 12 team. Although for some reason they're already thinking about 14-team playoff in college football. Like, what a shock! It took us forever to get to 12, and they're already looking beyond that. So that's another topic for another day. But yeah, I love the tournament, especially the first couple of weekends. It's nuts.
Yep, there's
It's
always a
it's also something
basketball
like
game
once you
on.
get down to yeah, like once you get down to the end of it, it's like, oh man, we gotta wait till next March to get this again.
Yep.
And this goes
Yep.
for the men and the women's. I feel like both of them are definitely on level playing field here.
For sure.
So
One thing too
yeah,
here before we move
but
on that makes March Madness so intense over something like the NBA playoffs, it's all sudden death. It's all
yeah,
one game. So last year Purdue lost. They're the one seed. They lost to was FDU. Like if they play a 7 game series, Purdue's winning that series. But it's all
mhm,
sudden death. Anything goes. One bad shooting night, one cold night, one hot streak is all it takes for the madness. Excuse the pun, to just go nuts. And that's what makes it so exciting is everything is sudden death, and you have to watch every possession because it all matters. There's no redo. There's no, oh, we'll get them next game. It's just sudden death. And that matters a lot into the craziness and the spontaneity of March Madness.
right, exactly. All right, so I know you filled out a bracket. Uh, I actually have not filled out one yet, but I will probably do it today after the show or tomorrow at least. But I guess I'll say the first thing is what's maybe the boldest prediction you have, whether it's like in first round matchup that's a crazy upset. Like,
Okay.
what's your boldest thing on your bracket?
All right. So I'm pulling up my bracket here, and so there's a couple bold ones that I have. I have Auburn going to the Final Four, which I feel like they're a 4 seed. I feel like that's pretty bold. I have them upsetting um, UConn, who's the overall number 1 seed, and that would be meeting in the Sweet 16. And that's pretty bold. I like how Auburn, the
Yeah,
defense they play, they have a lot of intensity. So I feel like that one's pretty good. I also I'm pretty high on Florida doing pretty well. I think they're going to travel really well. I'm looking here at my. I think Auburn going to the Final Four is a pretty big one, and then I have Nevada going to the Elite Eight. I
Okay.
just I feel like they play really well. I don't trust Arizona a ton, and I don't trust Baylor, and they'll lose to UNC. But I just feel like one of these teams is going to kind of go nuts and get kind of far and be a double digit team that gets that far. So I have them going there. But yeah, for me, my whole West bracket is just nuts. I have Alabama losing in the first round. I have Grand Canyon State losing in the first round, both of those double digits, and New Mexico. Like I have three, I have the 11, 12, and 13 seed all advancing in the Western bracket, which feels wrong. But when I look at the matchups and from what I've been able to gather,
Mhm.
it's like, man, I just don't trust any of those lower seeded teams. So I'd say those are probably my biggest or my boldest predictions.
Okay. I mean, those definitely pretty bold. I think for me, I feel like I'm buying into this McNeese State, so I kind of have them beating Gonzaga and possibly beating Kansas. I feel like they're going to be a 12 seed that becomes the Florida Gulf Coast or George Mason, that double digit seed that just takes over the tournament and people really start rooting for. So that's one for me. I mean, I don't have them making like the Final Four or anything, but I think they're going to be a very entertaining team to watch. I mean, another one I have is yeah, I'm not big on Purdue. I usually never am. That's like one of my things going in every year. I'm like Purdue, never put them in the Final Four. I
Nope.
fell into that trap when they had like Robbie Hummel, who I actually liked as a college player. I used to put Purdue basically in the Final Four every year, and they'd always lose early on. And I was like, nope, never doing it again. So Purdue, yeah, Purdue's going to lose early, possibly to. I can see Purdue losing to like Utah State. Not going to lie, in the second round.
I could see
Trying to see
that.
what else. Yeah.
Real quick, while we're on that side of the bracket, I missed this one while I was scoring through. I have Samford beating Purdue and going, so that would get them to what, the Sweet 16? I have Samford beating Kansas and beating Gonzaga.
Okay.
And, like they're a hot team. They
Hmm.
play really well. I feel like they're going to upset Kansas, and then I just don't trust Gonzaga, and like you said, just don't trust Purdue. It's kind of the way the bracket works, where I don't like. Do I really think it's going to happen? No, but I just trust those teams to fall more than I trust Stanford to pull up the upset. So that's probably my boldest claim there. And I do, Anthony, I also have Oregon beating South Carolina. I feel like that one's going to happen. I'm very confident on that one.
Okay. I mean, in terms of Purdue, what do you think about Zach Eady?
I don't know, man. Like
That's how I feel like everybody is like. It's like, ah.
it's he's fine. I just I don't. How tall is this guy? He's the what, 7'4" center, right? Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I just feel like you can put him in the pick and roll and just expose him is how I look at him. It'd be great if he could do more because big
Mhm.
centers that can make you could be rim protectors can be exciting. But I feel like his game, he's a throwback player and it just doesn't kind of fit to be effective in today's NBA. I don't buy it as far as he's a good player, but there's nothing special about him in today's basketball world.
Yeah. I'm kind of the same. That's kind of the reason why I'm like, I can't see Purdue going too
Yeah,
far because
it doesn't help that he plays for Purdue. Like if he played for a different team that didn't have all these, chokes and disappointments, maybe it's a little bit different, but you add those things on with Purdue, it's like it's not going to end well for Purdue. It's just not
yeah,
going to happen.
because it's like you can kind of see the script being written. It's like Purdue's going to go
Yep.
up against some team that's like really athletic, has a big man that can stretch the floor, and that's going to be the death of Purdue. So, yeah, I'm there with you. So Anthony has two number one seeds going to the finals. I mean, if I had to, well, I would say who are the two? I'm assuming Purdue's not one of them. That kind of eliminates one. So I'm gonna say what Houston and UConn. Is that who you have, you Anthony?
We'll see what he says.
Yeah. I will say I love the way Houston plays. I'm big on Houston. I think the only thing might be looking at their bracket. I don't know, like A&M could be maybe a problem. Okay, so he has Houston going all the way. I kind of like that. Not gonna lie, I like that. A&M could be a problem. Texas Tech. I mean, you talked about Florida. That could be an issue. Marquette. I kind of keep a close eye on Marquette come tournament time. But yeah, I
I
think
heard
Houston's gonna have a tough road to get there. But I kind of like Houston as well.
Yeah, I heard Marquette's point guard might have some injury status, and he's a big key player
Yeah.
for what they do, and so that's kind of why I have Houston going to the Final Four as well, and it's because of an uncertainty to that injury, where
Hmm.
it's just like I'm going to go with Houston, a team that I have just more faith in. Otherwise, if Marquette was healthy, it'd be a much more
Yeah.
difficult decision.
Okay. So Anthony has Houston going all the way. So who do you have Houston beating? I'm guessing it's UConn. Maybe it's UNC because you did say two number one seeds. All right. So while he's probably typing that, so we'll both agree we have Houston winning the South.
Yep,
Okay. Who do you have winning the Midwest?
the Midway. Oh man, this is the side of the bracket that I feel the absolute least good about because like I
I
don't trust
agree.
Purdue. I don't trust Tennessee. I don't really trust
Hmm.
Creighton. I don't trust like I have Kansas losing, Gonzaga. No, like it's just such a crapshoot. I have Creighton going into winning that bracket, going to the Final Four. I don't feel great about it. This is my least confident one. It's more of who they're going up against. I feel like if Kansas had a different matchup other than Samford, I'd probably have Kansas going all the way. But I like the Samford team early in the tournament to get that quick buzz for that first or second round upset. If Kansas was a 3 seed instead, I feel like they would probably end up taking it for me. But I have Creighton going, and again, don't feel good about it. That bracket's just full of chokers, man.
Yeah, that's that. Look, if you're gonna take a portion of this bracket and just go crazy and throw darts at the board, the
Do that one.
Midwest is it.
Yep.
Because like for me, I feel like looking at it and looking at some of the teams there, like I could convince myself of Texas finding a way out of there, or even like Anthony said, like if Oregon beats South Carolina, why couldn't Oregon just go on some crazy run and get out of there? So I,
Right.
I think I might settle on Texas, and then for all we know, like if Virginia beats Colorado State, watch Virginia and their boring style beat Texas, and then you're like, oh, well, what was all that for?
Right.
Because I like Virginia and everything, but it's it is rough to watch them play because they play so slow. But that actually works well in the tournament as long as you get the right matchups along the way.
Yep.
But yeah, I think I'm gonna go with Texas. Like I said, throw a dart at the board and we'll see what happens in the Midwest. Okay, so in the East, do you have UConn coming out of that, or do you have a different team?
So I have Auburn going coming out of the East. That's my big
Okay.
surprise there. Again, I from what I've gathered, which hasn't been as much, I like how they play defense. I feel like they travel really well. The SEC is a really good basketball conference, and I feel like they showed out really well there. And I know UConn's the number one team, and they have everything that you should want in a championship contending team. I just feel like it's gonna be madness, and the bits I've seen from Auburn have just been really impressive, and I feel like if you can make the big stops in the tournament, and I think that they can, you're gonna win more games than you're gonna lose. You're gonna win more possessions than you're gonna lose. So I have
Mhm.
Auburn as my there's gonna be one crazy team that makes it that's a good team, but they're not a 1 seed, and I think Auburn's the one to go, and, yeah, I actually feel pretty good about that one too. I feel I feel a lot better about that one than I do about Creighton going to the Final Four. Oddly enough,
Yeah. Uh, I mean, I think UConn gets out of there. I like UConn. I like what they did last year. They came back this year and looked like kind of the same team. Could I see them getting upset? Possibly, because like I said, Auburn, Auburn's kind of riding an emotional high with Bruce Pearl. We saw them win the SEC, and he was real emotional because he's talking about the stuff he's gone through and how the team and everything. And look, that emotion can carry you through this tournament. That's kind of how crazy this tournament is. They can ride that emotional high and you know just kind of paddle along through here. But I'm gonna take UConn. That's probably a boring pick as the one seed there, but I'll take them in the East.
it's a smart pick though. They're a really good team. I feel like
Yeah.
there are two teams that could give them a lot of trouble. Auburn being one, and Illinois being the other. Those teams are both really good. They play good tough basketball. I don't really believe in Iowa State a whole bunch, but I feel like if UConn's going to lose, it's going to be to either Auburn or Illinois. If either of those two teams get upset early in the tournament and UConn can avoid them, they're going to the Final Four easy. Like that's how I look at it.
All right. The last one we got the West. What do you have coming out of the West?
Out of the West, I have UNC. I have two number ones making the Final Four, and I think this is my bracket that has all the crazy upsets. They have I have a 12, a 13, and an 11 seed all making it pretty far, and a 10 seed. Like all these low seeds making it, and I feel like North Carolina, they play really good defense. Their offense can sometimes struggle to kind of get going, but I feel like with the lower seeds that they're going to be facing, the way that I have my bracket going out, I feel like their talent is going to elevate them into the Final Four.
Uh, I kind of want to agree with you, only because I kind of agree with on Arizona. I could see Arizona either flaming out really early in this or making a deep run because they do have a talent on that team. It's just I don't know if I trust it in a situation like this. So I probably would by default go with UNC because UNC is very talented, but it's like you said, they have moments in games where they just look out of sorts. But I kind of give Hubert Davis a lot of credit because I felt like I kind of questioned him at first when he was appointed to the coach there. He definitely seems like a better coach this year, with the Tar Heels.
Oh, for sure.
And, Baycott, who's their kind of star player there in the middle. He's another guy like I wasn't really high on probably last year with him, but the more I see him, like the more I kind of appreciate his game. So I think I'll go with UNC there, which kind of means I have three number ones and a random number seven making the Final Four. Which I mean, I can live with that.
Sure.
But I feel like once I actually go through the bracket, probably later, I'm probably look at those three number ones and be like, no, this is too boring. I'll just go crazy with somebody. Like the ones I'm set on are like Houston and UConn. North Carolina, I kind of am, but I feel like I could probably get talked out of that one, to be honest with you.
For sure.
All right. So I guess just to recap, I have UConn, Houston, Texas, UNC in the Final Four. You have
I have Auburn, North Carolina, Houston, and Creighton, and then Houston beating Auburn in the championship game.
okay. All right. I have Houston beating UConn championship
Cool.
game.
Cool stuff.
All right. Let's keep the fun going. All right. So now we're going to jump over into the
Oh
NFL.
man. All right.
Number one, this picture, like the Russell Wilson seems too intense just for this picture. Like he's locked in on Justin Fields.
And Joseph Fields
But
is like, dude, I can smell the onions you had on your sandwich for lunch. Step
yeah,
back.
Justin Fields is like kind of close. You're in my personal space. But so the reason why I got to talk about this is they are now teammates in Pittsburgh. We saw the tweet from Russ talking about let's go, quarterback room fire, all this kind of stuff. Like we know with Russ, he's gonna be the biggest Steelers like cheerleader whenever he can do interviews or Twitter or whatever like that. But looking at the two of them, what does this really mean for the Steelers? What does it do for them in terms of the AFC North? We'll start there. Looking at Ravens, Bengals, the Browns, and now the Steelers, where do you see them finishing? Obviously, they'll make some more moves. Got the draft coming up and everything like that. But sitting here today, where do you see them finishing in the division?
Man, this is tough. This whole division, the AFC North, is really hard to predict because you look at each team. We worry about Cincinnati, about Joe Burrow's health. You worry about what they're going to do with T. Higgins and how that's going to unfold. Uh, Baltimore has lost a lot of good players just on that defense. Patrick Queen going to the Steelers is a big one. Cleveland, do you really expect them to kind of have this miracle defense another year, especially if Deshaun Watson can't do anything if he's still playing kind of the subpar brand of football? And then Pittsburgh felt like they were a team that was one quarterback away from making a solid postseason run. I know they made the
Mm-hmm.
playoffs as a seventh seed, but like they weren't a playoff team. Just because you make the playoffs doesn't mean you're like a real playoff team. So for me, the way I looked at it is Pittsburgh took two very low risk gambles on two quarterbacks, and they're going to hope that one of them pans out. They're paying Russell Wilson just over $1 million on a 1 year deal,
Mm-hmm.
and they traded a 6th round pick for Justin Fields that goes up to a fourth based on playing time. They're looking at it, their division, like, hey, our defense is just as good as anybody's. We're going to beef up our offensive line in the draft. I'm going to assume they have great receivers. Let's just see if one of these guys sticks. Um, I probably put them as like the third best team. I have a hard time believing that Cleveland's just going to repeat, that they're going to have a chance to do what they can do again. I trust more in Joe Burrow and the Cincinnati Bengals, and I think the Ravens still
Mm-hmm.
have a lot of talent. So I think they're the third best team in the division. I think they're looking at this like, okay, Russell Wilson, let's see what he can do. If he's still mid, like he has been the past 2 years, we have a young guy that we can try and get behind. We have a guy we can believe in, and we have weapons that he can throw to in Justin Fields. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think Russell Wilson's going to be the starter going into training camp, out of the preseason into week one. He'll be the starter. Steelers will be, 3-3, but play will be up and down, and the fans will be really wanting to hear Justin Fields' name get called.
Mm-hmm.
He'll come in and he'll kind of show that, hey, look, Chicago was a mess. Chicago was a dumpster fire. I have some weapons. I have a really good coach who can believe in me, who can motivate. It's a very strong front office, strong organization. And he'll finish the season, play the last, 11 games or so, probably get him like a maybe 7-3, 6-4 kind of record. I like the moves. Like, I don't like the Pittsburgh Steelers. I've never liked them as a fan base, just from what my dad taught me growing up. We just don't like the Steelers. And I hate this move because it's good. I think they looked really good. Patrick Queen going is a steal. And then
Mm-hmm.
these two quarterbacks, one of these guys is going to be decent. And if anything else, both of these guys are going to be better than Kenny Pickett. Like, just straight up, they're going to be better than Kenny Pickett. And I was so wrong on Kenny Pickett last year. I thought he'd finish top 10 in passing yards. I really liked what I saw from him, and he just
Mm-hmm.
completely fell off. So they're going to get at least one more win this upcoming season because the quarterback play isn't Kenny Pickett. Like, I saw a stat that Russell Wilson's down season threw more touchdowns than Kenny Pickett has thrown in his whole career in 2 seasons. Like, it's just
Yeah.
it's going to be better, regardless of
Mm-hmm.
how up and down it is. It's going to be better.
Yeah. And I think that's kind of an interesting part of the Fields aspect is if he plays 51% of the snaps, the 6th round pick becomes a 4th round pick.
Yep.
To me, that seems like a motivation to get Fields out there sooner rather than later. I know that they said like Pittsburgh is like in on Fields. They expect to kind of keep him, into the second contract and everything, which I think is great for Justin Fields. Because of his time in Chicago, there's a lot of people who like doubt his ability and doubt how good he can be. And look, to be honest with you, maybe they're right. My only thing is we can't necessarily judge him off of Chicago. He didn't have much of anything to throw to. He didn't have much of anything blocking for him on the line. So a lot of it was him just scrambling and just trying to make plays that were there. Now with him in Pittsburgh, we can kind of get a better evaluation of him. They have a, pretty good running game. Harrison, Warren. He would have a legit number one with Pickens. He'd have a pretty good tight end. Although Cole Kmet has kind of come on, but he started off a little slow. Pat Fryermuth, really good in Pittsburgh. That defense as well. So this is a better position for him to succeed than it was in Chicago. And look, Russ, I think Russ probably knows he's probably there for 1 year. He's just playing it out, seeing if he can regain, something, regain some of that Seattle energy he had, and maybe move on next year to some team or something like that. He's just kind of in this to rebuild his image and everything like that. So I like it as well. I kind of just want to see Fields out of Chicago. Although I was on record saying if Chicago was smart, they'd have kept Fields, approached the draft in a way where it's like, we're going to commit to Fields. Let's finally build around him. They decided that the Caleb Williams, dangling carrot is just too enticing for them to not move Fields. Now, in terms of the division, though, here's the tough part. Like, Pittsburgh can look better next year and have a worse record because that division's so good. And I feel like some other teams in the AFC who took a step back last year will probably look better this year as well. So the competition around the AFC is going to be tougher. Because, Pittsburgh snuck into like 10 wins last year. If you had asked the average NFL fan last year what the Steelers' record was at the end of the season, they probably would not have come up with 10 wins. Because if they did watch a Steelers game, it was Pickett struggling offensively, all the Matt Canada stuff, everything like that. You would have thought they were probably like a 6-win team, but they found a way to get to 10. So I kind of think they're probably a last place team in that division. But because it's not Pickett, Steeler fans, I feel like, should feel better about their quarterback situation for sure.
Oh, for sure. And I think we can both agree that both of these guys are more or less playing for their NFL futures. Like if they
Yeah.
flame out here, they're both Russell Wilson, I think especially if he flames out and looks really bad in Pittsburgh, he's done because he had Carroll quit on him, even though Wilson wanted a trade. Carroll
Mm-hmm.
kind of was souring on him. Then Sean Payton soured on Wilson so bad that they're going to take this $85 million cap hit to play somewhere else.
It's
If he doesn't
wild.
work in right, it's wild. If he doesn't work in Pittsburgh, of all places, with a strong, stable organization that can pull great wide receiver talents out of any round of the draft, like he's just done. He'll be completely cooked. And I think that also shows in the fact that he only got a 1-year deal. You have to would think that he would want a 2-year deal, 3-year deal, because I know he's getting that big paycheck from Denver. But after that,
Mm-hmm.
like he wants to have a future in the NFL. He doesn't want to be just a free agent and hope to get signed on. So for him, I think the league is kind of pretty wary of Russell Wilson. And if he doesn't succeed here, it's over. Absolutely, it's over.
Yeah. And then on the other side for Fields, he's going into the 4th year of his rookie deal, which for a lot of rookies, that 4th year is where the team is really looking at it as, do we just pick up the 5th-year option? Do we try to work out a contract extension now? Problem is with Fields, we don't even know what kind of quarterback he is in the NFL because, like I said before, the Chicago situation was such a mess, can't evaluate him. So for him, it's like if he shows up there and he's the backup, he probably will be sitting over there like, I kind of need to play. Like, I need to show what I can do in this league. And for Russell Wilson, he's going to have to know if he struggles in any way. Like you said, the fans will be calling for Fields. Mike Tomlin might have to look at it and say, because of the division, because of the AFC, we can't just throw away games because we feel like Russell Wilson has to be the starter. They're going to have to put Fields in there, and we're going to need to see what Fields can do. I think Fields will do well, And if it wasn't Chicago, a lot of people thought Atlanta. I feel like Pittsburgh might be a place that he could really settle in and become a pretty good quarterback. Jory's asking, is Russ really that short?
He's short.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, if you watch Russ play, he doesn't come across as a really big quarterback,
Nope.
and I do think this picture kind of shows that even more.
Oh, it's hysterical. It's super funny with that. I feel like Russell Wilson is going to get the nod, but I feel like this is going to be a really tight race and quarterback
Hmm.
competition. And I feel like Pittsburgh is going to look at this and they're going to see a chance that there's if both of these quarterbacks are playing at similar levels, you have more potential and more upside with Justin Fields. Like that's just he's younger, he's more athletic, he has you could just do more with Justin Fields and Russell Wilson if they're both playing at the same level. And so I feel like Fields is eventually he's going to get the chance to start. He's going to get his chance to prove what he's worth. And Russell Wilson's going to have a short leash, and just
Hmm.
what it's crazy to think what a transition it's been from his last year in Seattle to where we're at now, where everyone was so surprised how Russell Wilson had never gained one single MVP vote, and now he could be out of the league after this season. Like how
I still think
the
it's one of
fall
the
from grace is
wildest
nuts.
stats that he's never gotten an MVP vote. That just seems crazy to me for a quarterback driven league. He was in a situation in Seattle where they were a pretty good team. I guess that shows that a lot of people put that on the defense, Legion of Boom, and everything like that. That they never really looked at Russell Wilson as an MVP candidate.
Yeah.
So I think for Justin Fields, he has a couple of things working in his favor. One, with all the reports, he's the future that Pittsburgh's really looking towards. He's younger. The second thing is that draft pick becoming a fourth rounder instead of a sixth rounder, if he plays more than half the snaps, has to work in his favor. Because for Pittsburgh, that is motivation to play Fields sooner rather than later. Because worst case, you put him out there, he struggles this season because he's getting acclimated and everything. At least you're getting the fourth round pick out of it. And you could still say that he's part of your future because you look at it as coming from Chicago, Pittsburgh, different conference in the AFC, much better division, you'd say, the North in the AFC compared to the NFC North, that there has to be some time for him to adjust. So, like Jory said, wouldn't be surprised if Fields ends up starting by the end of the season.
Yep.
Yeah, I expect him to be the starter at the end of the season, but I think he gets in there maybe like 5 weeks in. And at least with Russ, he'll probably just toe the company line. He'll probably become Fields' biggest cheerleader, and they won't really have to worry about that.
Has Russell Wilson come up with a cheesy catchphrase yet? Like "Let's forge, let's smelt." Has he said anything like that yet?
He better he better have.
That's go Steelers. That's Forge. No, I think on a more serious note, I feel like for the people that are really into gambling, I think one of the most interesting gambling odds we're going to see if they can come up with this is an over under on when Justin Fields becomes the starter. Is it week 6, like you said? Is it week
Mhm.
8, week 9? I think that's going to be a really interesting line to see if what Vegas puts out to kind of get their feel for it because it's going to happen at some point. Pittsburgh I just don't see a situation where Russell Wilson is playing so good that it's off
Mhm.
the table for Fields to see a snap. It's just not going to be on the. It just doesn't make sense for him. Like you said, with that draft pick, with the potential, with his age going in his favor, I just don't see it
Yep.
happening. Russell Wilson is there to show that he can still play football. He can still work within a locker room and not be so divisive. And then next year, go play for another team, like sign another contract next year with some other team, and hopefully get one more, 2 or 3 year deal.
Yeah. All right. I mean, look, we'll see what happens. I mean, Pittsburgh will. I'm assuming with these two moves, you'll probably see Pittsburgh on some primetime games a little bit more, only because the soap opera between these two will be interesting to see. Even though I feel like both guys aren't necessarily, you know, drama creators, although
Drama
recent years
follows
with
him though.
Russell Wilson, right? Because in recent years we heard about Russ, his needing his office or whatever stuff. I feel like that's not going to play in Pittsburgh. and because of Fields and his struggles in Chicago, yeah, the drama has followed him. So Pittsburgh's going to be interesting to watch
Yep,
for
and
sure.
one thing before we move on with Fields, like
Mhm.
he's a good citizen, he's a good teammate and everything, but Justin Fields is he's one of those guys that has weird fans that just go crazy for him, that follow him along and are like just obsessed with him being, whether it's you want to say it's making excuses or what have you. Those fans are going to go from Chicago to Pittsburgh and start to
Yeah,
create the drama, create the narrative in sports media. It's not his fault. It's just that's his fan base for whatever reason follow him like that, and it's going to create this controversy even though both of these guys aren't super controversial in their own right.
yeah.
It's just those fans, man. Those fans are
Hmm.
nuts.
And one last follow up to this one. The part of the story about Kenny Pickett basically asking out because he didn't
Oh
want to
man, I forgot
compete
about
with
that.
Russell Wilson. I'm sorry. That seems weak to me because if I'm Kenny Pickett, knowing what I know about the perception of Russell Wilson, I would have felt like, okay, you're bringing in Russell Wilson to push me or whatever, but ultimately, I think I can beat him out based on what I saw when he was in Denver. The fact that he heard Russell's coming in and he wanted to run, and now he's what the backup in Philly. So I don't really know what that does for Kenny Pickett.
No, he's done.
Yeah, but yeah, I thought it was weak by Kenny Pickett. He
He
comes out looking the worst in all of this.
Oh, absolutely. He's done. Again, I was really high on Kenny Pickett, so this is me just kind of eating crow as far as my prediction going wrong. Like he looked bad. I read somewhere that in their it was either their last game of the season or their playoff game, he refused to dress to be the third quarterback on the roster. He's like, I'm not even going to dress for it. It felt like when he got hurt and then got benched and never got put back in the game as the starter, he was just done. Like he was somehow personally offended. Maybe like he felt like he was just the natural deserving starter because he was the number one overall pick. And I don't know, got his feelings hurt. Like he looks his play was so bad, and then this attitude is even worse that he's done. Like he'll be lucky if he makes it as like a decent backup quarterback based off of his not only his play but his attitude. It's garbage.
Mhm.
I've done a 180 on him. Like where I was last year on Pickett. You remember Kyle? I was huge on Pickett. Now,
Yeah.
nope. I'm off the bandwagon. And Jory says
Okay.
the best.
Yeah.
He should have played better sooner.
Right. So yeah, I definitely agree with you. Pickett's a guy who, at this point, might just be a career backup. He's gonna have to hope for a situation where either a team loses a starter in free agency, can't replace him, and he kind of becomes the default starter or something like that. He's gonna have to find a situation that allows him to be the starter because of circumstances, not necessarily teams are going to look for him to be a starter anymore. I think, yeah, I think that's definitely over with. All right. So that is all I have in terms of topics. So we are going to do our 2 round mock draft tonight, but I think before that we'll go ahead and get the fun trivia stuff out of the way. So
Let's do it.
those of you in the chat, since Jake will kind of be on his own with this
Yeah,
one, he's
help
going
me
to
out
need your
here.
help because, like I said, when I put this one together, I thought about Dylan, Brett being here to help you. So we're gonna see how this goes. And also, like I said, those of you on X, you guys can go ahead, get in the chat. We want to hear from you because I do see that there's, I think it's like 15 or so over there watching.
All right.
But
Very
let
cool.
me pull this up really quickly.
Also, while you pull
Okay,
that
so this,
up, I just want to say I hate Kirk Cousins to Atlanta as a Saints fan. Just have
yeah.
to get it out there. That was of all the quarterbacks, that was the guy I wanted to see least, and I absolutely hate it. The Falcons are just I hate it. They had a great offseason, and I hate it. I'll let you pull it
Although
up. I just
now,
had to get it off my chest.
but speaking of your Saints, didn't they get Chase Young?
Yeah, but you know
How do
what?
you feel about that?
So here's the thing with that is I live in the DMV, so I've seen tons of Washington games since I moved here in 2020. on paper he should be good, but he just doesn't have a good motor. Like he played hard in the Super Bowl, but other than that, like he doesn't have a good motor. He doesn't have a whole lot of skills. It's just more based on his physique and his power. And
Hmm.
13 million bucks is kind of a lot. It's fully guaranteed. 1 year fully guaranteed 13 million. I don't love it because if he's great, cool. Then we have to sign him to a really expensive deal. If he's awful, like it's still 13 million bucks. I'm hoping I'm wrong because he can be great, but I've kind of like enjoyed having Washington. I've adopted him as one a team that I root for because they're on every week. And I was happy when they traded him and got a third round pick for him. So don't love it, but at the same time, the Saints haven't done much in free agency, so I gotta latch on to some hope, I guess.
Okay. Um, so yeah. So I will say, I don't know if you've seen this game. Have you seen the like Luck Connections game?
I don't think so. Maybe if you show me like the
Okay.
board, maybe it'll help me if I've seen it.
Okay. So I'll show you what it looks like, and then explain it a little bit. Like I said, this one I feel like will be tough for you solo here. Oh, so now the StreamYard doesn't want to show it. Hold on, hold on. There we go. So basically, what you have to do is link 4 players at a time for whatever category you want to link them in.
Oh
There's
man.
4 ways to link these 16 players. Can you do it? If you can't see their faces, I can do
That
that which
that'll
gives
help
their
a little bit
names.
with the names. That'll help a little bit.
Okay.
Okay. So I have to make 4. Oh man. Because my first reaction when I saw Derrick Rose, Russell Westbrook, and Kevin Durant, I'm like, oh, MVP. But there's not anyone else that's won an MVP. So that one's not there. Oh man, this is gonna be very difficult. Okay, OJ Mayo played for the Grizzlies. John Morant's on the Grizzlies. Any other Grizzly players? I don't think so. I'm gonna need your help here, Key. This
Yeah.
one looks is tough. Man, I could have done the other ones we've done with like the teams that haven't what made the one of finals or whatever it was. I
Hmm.
could have done that in my sleep. Could have done that in my sleep by myself. Okay.
So I will say for key, if you don't know how the game works, you have to put the 16 players in groups of 4, linking them all in a certain way. I mean, you got Brett here to help you.
Oh,
So
come on,
Brett's
Brett.
asking, "What is this?" So
Help
this is
me out,
like
Brett.
connections. It's so if there were 4 players on here that are linked because they're MVP winners, you'd have to pick those 4 out, and if it's correct, they'll put them in a line. You have to do that 4 times. You can only use each player once. I hope that's a better explanation, but that's kind of what Jake has ahead of him.
Okay. So Nurkic, Booker, Durant have all been on the Suns. There has to be one other guy that's been on the Suns. Oh. Was Isaiah Thomas ever on the Suns? Did he have a stop between Sacramento and Boston? Oh, Bridges. That's right. Okay. So Bridges, Nurkic, Durant, and Booker all on the Phoenix Suns. Thanks, Brett.
So that is not correct, and
Was
apparently you are 1 away. So Brett says Isaiah was also
okay, so switch
this.
Bridges for Isaiah. I thought he was on there, but I wasn't as sure. Switch Bridges for Isaiah Thomas. There, current. All right, feel good about that one.
Okay.
Okay, gosh, this is brutal.
So hopefully for those of you in the chat, you kind of understand what it's about based on how that just worked right there.
Okay. Beasley. I'm trying to
So I
think
will
like
say,
who
like
all Michael
for me,
Beasley
looking
played
at
for.
this, I think the player that's like crazy to me is the OJ Mayo. Like, how does he fit in with anybody? It's been like so long since we've seen him. It's like, what teams was he on and all this kind of stuff. But all right. So
Oh,
Brett's
let's do
giving you
Brett's. Do
another
that.
one.
Dante Hart, Beasley, Brunson.
Hart,
I thought
Beasley.
I think OJ went to did OJ go to USC or UCLA?
Didn't Russ and OJ both go to UCLA? I thought OJ May went to USC.
That's what I thought. I thought he went to USC.
Yeah.
Yeah, so did that one
So
come through?
I'm just gonna say this. Well, yeah, I guess Michael Beasley did play for the Knicks. So let's see. Nope, one away again.
Okay. Rude. Uh well, Rose switch. I know Rose played for the Knicks, but who do we want to
Okay.
pull out? Did Beasley play for the Knicks? That's what I'm trying to work out. It's between Beasley and Hart. And I know you can't tell me anything. All right, so we'll add in Derrick Rose. Let's take away Josh Hart. I have the hardest time remembering where Josh Hart played because I feel like he's been in a million different places, and I like him as a player.
So this is you want
Yep, let's do
Rose
that.
Beasley.
Not
Nope.
even
And now
close.
you're no longer
Wrong,
one away. So that probably
wrong
means Hart
direction
was
there.
right.
Oh gosh, dang! This game is brutal. I blame you, Brett, for going to SmackDown on Friday, not being here for the pod. All right, last one. All right, let's see. Is there any Caro? I'm trying to think if there's number one overall picks here.
Okay. Well, let me take these off.
Yeah, take those guys off because I'm not even going to touch the other one there. LaMelo wasn't a number one overall pick. OJ wasn't. Dante, Russ, Brunson, Beasley wasn't. Hart. So there's not a number one pick there. Not enough players for that. That's currently available. OJ Mayo just makes no sense. OJ and Michael Beasley make no sense to me. That's the part that's just like, how am I supposed to do anything with this? Yeah, Paolo was. They're all lottery picks. I don't know if that. I don't know if the system's going to take that though, because I mean, most of these guys are all. I think all of them are
Mhm.
lottery picks. All right, let's. LaMelo's only been in Charlotte. He played overseas. He's a point guard. Gosh dang, this is brutal. Trying to hoping on the chat can
I
get this.
feel like with this, part of me thinks what you might have to look at is probably like in some award with that all of them have probably won.
Okay. Okay.
Like I said,
So
he's telling you that Beasley played for the
Beasley played
Knicks
for the
and
Knicks.
OJ went to
So
USC. Okay, so Brett's telling you that
Ja
Ja
Morant,
and
Beasley were
Beasley
two.
were number 2 picks.
Where did OJ get drafted? Because I know he was a really high draft pick, and he totally
OJ,
flamed out. Because he was in that '08
I
draft.
want to
Oh,
say OJ Mayo was like was he like a number 5?
yeah, he was in this. Oh, ooh, I think. Okay, so Derrick Rose, Michael Beasley, OJ Mayo, and Russell Westbrook were all in the same draft class. I get that. That feels right. They have to be in the same draft class.
Okay.
There
First
we
4 picks of
go.
the '08 draft.
At least I got something there. Gosh dang. Okay, I feel a little better about myself there. Now, with what we're at here, I mean, shoot. Okay. Josh Hart, John Morant. I almost got nothing. I almost just want to just select four. Is this system going to error out if there's not any picks left based on how the game goes?
Yeah,
Because
so it basically says you have one mistake left, and then it will tell you the
okay.
results. Okay, so Key is telling you Villanova.
Oh, so Villanova. Okay. So we know Dante went to Villanova. Who else went there? I have the hardest time remembering. Oh, Jalen Brunson went there too. So we had Brunson, Dante. Oh, did Bridges?
Mm-hmm.
Bridges did. Okay, so that's 3, and I'm just gonna have the hardest time.
So Key is telling you that Josh Hart also went to Nova.
Okay, let's do those 4 then. I'm gonna just go with you on that one, Key. I have the hardest time keeping those ones straight. Play for Villanova, and then
So
just
now that
choose those
leaves
4. Let's just see if it comes up with anything.
the Rookie of the Year. That's what I was telling you. Think of an award.
Dang. Okay, man, that game is tough. It's fun. It's a lot more fun if
Yeah,
there's 3 people. But
exactly.
Key and Brett, thank you for the help, and Jory as well. Couldn't have done it
Yeah.
without you.
So I do think, in terms of our fun and trivia, this might become a staple because at least once Brett's on, we know Brett in his NBA mind and everything like that. Dylan as well. I think it will be fun for us.
Yep.
So now we're gonna go ahead and kind of end the show doing our 2-round mock draft. And yeah, I mean, look, if Key's gonna tell you anything about Nova, she knows that's right around her area.
I like it.
And I to be honest with you, I didn't even think about that. The Rookie of the Year one, I was like, some of those names are definitely pointing out to me Rookie of the Year.
Yep.
But yeah, so those of you in the chat, we're gonna do a 2-round mock draft. I will be the Patriots. Jake will take his Saints. We will, because if you didn't see it 2 weeks ago, we are allowed to do trades and everything like that. You all in the chat can kind of grade our draft. You can throw out if your team goes by, if you like that team's pick or whatever, kind of throw your own input in there. So let me go ahead and get that together. Here we go. So I will say, I do like that you like that game because I do know it is challenging. Because looking at that list, it's like OJ Mayo, Michael Beasley. Those are 2 guys you haven't seen in a while everybody else was current players. And it's just yeah. So,
yeah, that was tough.
All right. So, Patriots, Saints. We're good. 2 rounds. So, I feel like next week, Dylan and Brett should be back. I'm trying to think, should we do 3 rounds next week? We go 4 rounds. I feel like a 7-round one. We'll save that for week of the draft or something like that.
Week of the draft. Yep, for sure.
Yeah. All right. So let's go ahead, pull this back up. All right. So, I mean, this website, you got to take what you can with this one. So they have Harrison going first.
They make the
Caleb
trade
Williams.
and they don't even take the quarterback. Oh, man.
The only thing I'm like, maybe this database hasn't updated with that yet because it'd be
Sure.
look, if you're a Bears fan, you traded Justin Fields and then number one you take a Marvin Harrison, you might riot. I don't know, but
I'm gonna write it. I'm a
I mean,
Saints fan. Come on.
well, I mean, technically they would be like maybe they take the wide receiver. You're pairing that guy up with who's it, Keenan Allen now. You got DJ Moore. Take a quarterback in the second round. They might be able to live with that.
Sure.
All right, so I'm sitting at 3. Denver's trying to move up. Makes sense. And look, Chicago's trying to move up. So maybe this does make a little bit of sense here. Because obviously, Chicago moves to 3. They're going to take a quarterback.
Yeah, but you need to get a first out of that, like a future first, to go
Yeah,
from to drop down to 9. I don't like that one. The Broncos trade, little intriguing.
trade Fields dropped Harrison, Tyson Bagent hours. I
Like,
mean, you get Denver's first and second next year.
and they're not going to be good
Got it.
next year.
Right.
But you go
And
from 3 to 12, so all the quarterbacks are going to be gone. Realistically thinking, all the good quarterbacks are going to be gone, and probably the best tackles are going to be gone. So it depends. Are you building? Are you turning a leaf, or are you going to just go back to the trading? Trading back and collecting assets that have been the Patriot way for so many years.
I mean, my thing has been if the Patriots trade down for extra draft capital, I see the point in that. Because like a lot of Patriots fans are so upset when they see like today, Mike Williams signed with the Jets. Patriots fans are like, why didn't we get him? We saw the Justin Fields trade. Oh, why didn't we get him? I think the Patriots are approaching this as like 2 to 3 years, just bringing in players and then try to create a winner. So next year, look, Patriots fans, next year is not going to be pretty. It might be a slight improvement. Maybe they win 6 games next year. You're going to have to kind of deal with it.
6, man, 6.
My
If you
only
win 6 games, you're going to be like throwing a parade. I don't think the team's going to be
right.
very good.
To me, it's like at least I can see like the direction of the
You
team,
can
see
see
some
the idea,
improvement.
and it makes sense for sure.
Yeah, and that 6 wins will probably be more fun to watch than the 4 win season we had last year. To be honest with you, both of these trades are interesting because the Chicago one you get 975. That Carolina second is going to be high in the draft, which could turn into a late first. Then the Chicago second and third could be pretty decent picks. But I think I'll reject them because I kind of want to take the quarterback here. And
Who are you
I'm
going
taking
for?
Jaden Daniels. I'm taking Jaden
Okay.
Daniels.
Why Jaden over what's his face? Drake May. What's
Drake
your
May.
what's your logic there?
I just think I feel like Jaden Daniels' athleticism probably sets him apart from Drake May.
Okay.
I think Drake May, like if the Patriots took Drake May, I think early in the process I was a little bit like, but I think with him and his ability, with his arm and everything, I could see it working. I feel like May might need a little bit more coaching before he gets on the field than Jaden Daniels does. Like if May's drafted, I would be okay if they did not play him one snap next year.
Sure.
I think you take Jaden Daniels, he should at some point make it on the field. I think either way, Jacoby Brissett starts, I don't know, first 4 to 6 weeks,
For
easy.
sure. For sure.
Although in this case, the Raiders moved up to take Drake May at 5.
Yeah, makes sense.
And Malik Neighbors goes to the Cardinals. Makes sense. All right, keep it moving here. We'll stop it at
Falcons got
10.
Dallas Turner. Dang it. That was a guy I really wanted. I hate the Falcons
So,
so much.
Jory, if you're still here, you got the Titans taking Brock Bowers. It's interesting. I don't think we have Falcons fans in here, but Dallas Turner would definitely fit a need for the Falcons because they have literally nobody who really gets after the quarterback. Dallas Turner can do that. Giants taking a tackle. Okay. Jets taking Roma Dunze. Makes sense. So the Bears come out of this with Marvin Harrison and Jared Verse. Okay. I could
Oh,
hear the
Brett's
groan
happy
from
with that.
Chicago with that
Yep.
one. All right, let's keep it going. All right, so the
Okay,
Chargers moved up ahead of the Saints to get Joe Alt.
that's who I was
So
looking to get.
so the Saints are on the clock. You got trade with the Chiefs, 32, 64, 95. Carolina, 33, 39, and 65 for 14
No,
and
like, come on, you
150.
got to give me at least like I don't want anything to do with Kansas City because those picks are going to be low of every round. And then for Carolina, like I'm not going to go from 14 down to what was it, like 34. Come on,
33 and 39.
33. Yeah, no, no. There's more value in pick 14 than that. So I'm going to reject that and reject. Yeah, I'll make a pick here.
All
Um,
right.
All right, so let's look at offensive tackles. We could just look at that position
Okay.
because that's a position I really want the Saints to improve on. And you know what? I took him last time. I'm gonna take him again. Fuaga. I'm sure I butchered his name. Offensive tackle from Oregon State. I love this dude. If we get him, I'm gonna be super ecstatic because he's really athletic. He's a really good offensive tackle. Played really well at Oregon State, and I think he'd be a really good fit. So I'm taking him, and I'm happy. Like if this is how it goes, I'm ecstatic.
So
I'm
we had
surprised more
some.
quarterbacks haven't gone yet.
I mean, yeah, that is very interesting.
Like McCarthy hasn't gone yet, and I'm sure he's going to be a top 10 pick based on how GMs just can't, help themselves when it comes to quarterback play.
Right. Chargers made a couple of moves. Like I said, they got Alt before your pick. They just traded back into 16 for Terry and Arnold from Alabama. I wonder, does this show the actual trade? I haven't messed with this before. Yeah, I kind
Okay,
of like this website. I like what they're doing here.
that's pretty good.
Oh, so they traded with the Seahawks, which that would have been Dylan's decision there. Brian Thomas to the Rams. Kool Aid
Kool-Aid.
McKinstry. I mean, probably best name going right now.
Oh, for
Let's
sure.
keep it going. And now they're okay. So JJ
McCarthy to
McCarthy just went
Minnesota.
to
I,
Minnesota.
I think Minnesota's going to trade up in the draft and get like a top 12 pick and draft McCarthy. That's why I think they've made some picks or some trades
Hmm.
rather to get more draft capital. I think he's going to go there. I just think he's going to be a lot higher than 23rd.
Yeah, can I think? I mean, I think like the rumor going around is like they're willing to offer was it like 11 and 20 something to move into the
Yep.
top 10.
Yep.
And I was telling myself if that comes across the Patriots desk, I wouldn't be mad if they took that trade.
It's hard to say no to.
Yeah. And we also have kind of a run on tackles. Guyton, Sumataya, and Morgan all went pretty near each other. All right, pause at the end of the first round. Ravens taking another wide receiver. Xavier Worthy was a guy I would love to see in New England as well, but going to Tampa Bay, Baker getting another
No, more help
playmaker there.
for sure.
Well, Brett, if you're still in the chat, Packers with Latu. How would you feel about that one? And I guess some keys in here. Nate Wiggins to the Eagles.
I mean, they need help in that secondary, so they definitely addressed a position of need.
All right, let's go ahead and get the second round started. All right, so Steelers 51 and 84. No. 37 and 252.
So what?
So,
What's that? A seventh round draft pick to go back 3 spots?
right. I wonder who Kansas City would be targeting, but I'll say no to that one. So I got the quarterback. I think here I would either take a wide receiver or a tackle because they definitely need a tackle. I think I'd go with the tackle here, and I would take J.C. Latham out of Alabama. They signed Onwenu in the offseason, or re-signed him, I should say. and they basically said he's going to be a right tackle. The thing with Onwenu has been he's been on the right side of the line, but he's played guard and tackle. They told him you're going to be a tackle from now on, so now he can put all his energy there. Left tackles is open because Trent Brown did it last year. Trent Brown is still a free agent, but I think he's visiting with the Bengals, so it's probably a good chance he's not coming back. I know they got a Corafor from the Steelers in the offseason, but I don't think he's going to be a starting tackle. I think he's going to be a rotational piece. If he's starting at left tackle, that means they didn't get anybody in the draft or free agency and what's left of it. I mean, Tyron Smith is with the Jets now, so there's not really many options out there anymore. So I'll take Latham from Alabama.
All right.
Lad McConkey to Carolina. Yeah. All right, so you're up at 45. You got the Rams for 52 and a second rounder for 45 and 150. And then Detroit basically just 61 in the second next year.
That Rams one is a little interesting, but I'll just stick with what I have here. Like, to get a second round pick next year, you know what? We'll take it. Well, let's take that one. We'll take a second round pick next year. The Saints are going to be in cap hell for eternity, so we need cheap players. So I'll take that deal and drop back just a few spots.
Bo Nix to the Giants.
Oh, that's such a Giants move. That's such a Giants move to get Bo Nix. Like, who would you rather have, Chad, if you're here, Bo Nix or Daniel Jones? Like, if you're not happy with either of those guys, my perspective, at least, for Bo Nix.
Well, I will say I heard a comparison today for Bo Nix that made me shake my head. Somebody compared Bo Nix to Drew Brees.
Oh, come on. Everybody does this. So, and I'm going to take offense to that as a Saints fan, and Brees is my guy. Like, that's just like, hey, let's get Jake riled up. Let's just push that button. But, like, there's been only one Drew Brees. Like, there's only one guy that can be that accurate and that precise with everything that he had. So just stop.
Mm-hmm.
Like, people don't say there's another
Well,
Peyton
look,
Manning. They don't say
hey,
there's another Tom Brady. So just stop.
comparisons like that can go a long way. We saw Zach Wilson. It took one person to mention Patrick Mahomes. He blew up. If people are thinking Bo Nix is Drew Brees, that's gonna help. That's gonna help him in the draft.
Yep. And people saying Brock Purdy is going to be the next Drew Brees. Like, just
for the Giants, I mean, why not take the next Drew Brees over whatever Daniel Jones is?
How old is Bo Nix? Is he like 26 years old or something like that? Like, come on. He's not that old, I'm sure.
I mean, that's yeah, my joke is that he's like 34. I think he's like 24, maybe 25.
That's not great. That's not great. That doesn't go well in your favor. But back to the draft here. Let's see. I'm not taking the Jacksonville one. That's too far to drop back. And nope. We'll just stick with what we got here. Okay, so I know we need help with edge rusher. So let's see what our edge looks like. Just click on the defense there. What quarterbacks are available? Because I'm sorry, but I just don't love Derek Carr.
I will tell you, Michael Penix is still on the board.
Oh, you know what? I almost swore there. Screw it, man. Let's just Michael Penix. Let's just do it. Let's have him sit a year behind Derek Carr. The Saints can get out from his money after that. Let's take him. Let's reset. If I'm the general manager for the Saints, I'm wanting to get rid of all this dead money. We're an old team. I want to get younger. Best way to get younger is by addressing the offensive line and the quarterback. And if I can get Michael Penix and I got my guy from Oregon State, I'm pretty happy. So let's take that.
All right. I'm pretty sure neither of us will be picking again, so okay.
Does this one give grades? I know the one we did last year did grades. I don't think this one does that.
No, it doesn't. I guess I was going to leave that for the chat, but
yeah, there's always that little instant gratification where it's like you get an A+, or if you get like a D, you're like, oh, I feel like a.
The only problem was the trade offers were just ridiculous in
Oh,
that
they were
one.
so bad. Like, I remember last year we were doing it, and it's like, you mean I can have, like, the Lions' entire draft next year just for this
Yeah,
second round pick? We
yeah.
were we were laughing.
I
It's
feel
like,
like
we can't take it serious.
this one, the trades are more realistic.
More
Of
realistic,
course,
absolutely.
there's no grade. I mean, I would say, chat. Who do you think had the better 2 round mock? I have Jaden Daniels and J.C. Latham. So quarterback and tackle, two biggest needs. Jake got, well, both did the same thing, just
Yep,
reverse order. You took your tackle first in Fuaga, and then Penix Jr. in the second round for your quarterback. I went Daniels and then um, Latham. Plus, you got the Rams second next year.
yep. I'll say this, if this actually happened in the first 2 rounds, as a Saints fan, I'm super happy. I'm super excited. I know we don't need a quarterback for this next year
Mm-hmm.
for the roster because we have Derek Carr and they restructured his deal. I don't love Derek Carr, and he's at best, he's like, what, the 3rd best quarterback in a bad division? So, just get younger, just draft a quarterback. So if we get this, I'm happy. I'm feeling pretty good about it myself.
Yeah, I feel the same way. Like if they do this, I'm like, okay, I see what's going on.
You
You'll
see the
Latham
vision.
is
Yep.
probably your tackle opposite on when you know, guards you have Strange who you took last year. You have what City Sal or Antonio Maffi who you took last year. You still have David Andrews at center. Your O line seemingly should be better. And then Daniels at the quarterback position, I will take that. Even if he has to sit behind Brissett for a couple of weeks, like why
There's
not
nothing
learn
wrong
how to
with
be a
quarterback
pro
sitting.
behind? Yeah, especially Jacoby Brissett's going to show you how to be a pro.
Yep.
You don't have to worry about him teaching you bad habits. So I would take that any day of the week. All right. So like I said, next week we'll probably do, I don't know, 3 rounds or 4 rounds. We'll see kind of how it goes from there. But yeah, I feel like that's all we got. The first edition of On the Ball, the revised version of the Big Three podcast. So, I mean, Jake, before we get out of here, got anything to say? How do you feel
Yep.
about the new network and the new show
For
name?
sure. Yeah, no, I'm super excited for the new show name. We've been kind of kicking this idea around for, little look behind the scenes for a good number of months, just trying to figure out a good new name for the podcast, easier to identify. So I'm super excited for that. Excited for the new network. Thankful for everyone for coming in and watching. Tell your friends, spread the news. You know, we're you're going to get the same content, same good quality content, just different brand. So definitely follow us over here. And huge shout out to the chat for helping me with that game. Like, Kyle, I know you weren't expecting it just to be a one person game, but without the help, I would have gone maybe 1 for 5 or 1 for 4 there. It was pretty brutal. So thanks for the chat on that one.
Yeah, and I guess to kind of second what you said, like I appreciate a lot of the people we saw with Big Three kind of transferring over. And like I said, the Facebook page is up. It's just that Facebook crazy new rules. We couldn't go live on there, so it's the YouTube feed for this week. So appreciate all of you for tuning in on YouTube. Also, those of you on X, like I said, feel free to jump in the chat because a lot of you are watching over there. Would love to hear from you. We're on StreamYard. The X comments do pop up, so you can say what's up. Tell us we're crazy for our takes. We'll take it all. But definitely appreciate all of you. Like I said, On the Ball will be back next week. We're here every Tuesday, so make sure you tune in. Oh, also, like I said, the Integrity Sports Network Facebook page is up and running, so you can go over there, give it a like, review, all that good stuff. Like, let us know that you still like the content. I would greatly appreciate that. So, I will say for myself and Jake, although BC did beat Providence in the first round of the NIT, so
There you go.
BC's moving on. I'm loving that. So for myself and Jake, hopefully next week, like I said, Dylan and Brett should be here, so we'll have the full show. Appreciate all of you. Enjoy the rest of your night. We're gonna go ahead and get up out of here, and we will see you next week. All right. Bye.